Come on. Hello everybody. So as you can tell from the title of this video, I once again have some pretty big news for you all. Before I start this video, I'm just going to preface with the fact that everything I say is not in the opinion of the Walt Disney World Company. It is strictly my opinions and my experiences throughout the first few weeks of my Disney College program, and it has no relation to the Walt Disney Company and their views. So with that being said, let's get started. So if you saw my last few videos, like two or three videos ago, you saw a video called Pardon My Pixie Dust, Failing My DCP Swim Test. So in that video, I talked about how I failed my deep water swim test, but I passed my shallow water test. So I was relocated into the Contemporary Hotel. Since then, I have a lot to talk about. So after that happened, I went through 3 intensive days of lifeguard training. So basically, those 3 days involve the first day, you half of the day you practice CPR and you're learning how to do it, and then you practice saves in the pool. And then the second day you, once again, learn CPR, but you intensify it. You like learn deeper, harder things about it. And the second day you learn how to pull people out of the pool with the backboard, how to deal with spinal injuries and all of that kind of stuff. And then the third day was basically your test out day. So you spent half of the day practicing, half of the day testing out. So for me, I have never lifeguarded before in my entire life. I had no experience, no CPR experience, no any experience, and I honestly hadn't been swimming for a long time because I am not one really to go swimming anymore. I used to love swimming as a child. I swam all the time, but since I've gotten older, I have moved on to just, you know, tanning in the pool, relaxing, chillaxing by the pool, not swimming. I still can swim. I'm still a pretty good swimmer, but not like a competitive swimmer, not anything like that. But I was cast as a lifeguard. And so after my first day of lifeguard training, I came home, and I am not I'm not a person who does this. I don't go to my parents and cry to them. I don't tell my parents a lot of things. Like if I'm having a bad day, I don't do that. But I literally called my mom. She didn't answer. I called my dad. He didn't answer. And then my dad called me back, and I just started bawling on the phone. I was just so stressed out, and I had had such an awful day. I was terrified. I was scared of the job. I literally was just having a panic attack on the phone with him, just thinking about somebody dying on my watch, or thinking about, you know, zoning out for 5 seconds and somebody is dead because of me. And it was just really tearing me apart on the inside. And I got off the phone with him, and I was like, okay, I'm fine. So I called my mom back, and then I just started crying again, and it all happened all over again. And it was just very draining. In that class, they show you multiple videos of kids drowning, and in some cases not making it out alive. And it was just, I mean, they do it for a reason. They do it to motivate you to do that job. But for me, it didn't motivate me to do the job. It terrified me to do the job. And so I talked to my parents, and they were basically like, Abby, if you are not mentally strong enough to do this, you need to tell them. You need to tell them that you can't go on. And I was like, I know, but I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up and I'd be the girl that quit lifeguarding to go somewhere else. And so I walked in the next morning really early. The class started at 8, and I got there at like 7:15, and I waited for my trainer to get there. And at 7:30, I walked in when he got there, and I was like, can I talk to you in your office? And I basically was about to start talking to him, and I just started crying. And he was like, and I was like, and so I basically explained to him everything that was going on in my mind, and I told him how I wasn't able to sleep the night before, and how I wasn't able to eat because I was just so stressed, and how I was having like panic attacks. And he was like, I think you should finish the course, and on the 3rd day, if you're still feeling like this, you can talk to, or if you fail the test, then you know you have 3 more days of training. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep trying. So the 2nd day came around, got home, the exact same thing happened all over again. I had another panic attack, and I was just crying and everything was going wrong. And then the third day I was like, I'm gonna stick it out and I'm gonna try my best to pass that test. And so I went in there and I was like, I'm gonna pass the test, and if I fail, I'm just gonna ask if they can recast me and not put me through the class again. And I was like, if I pass, I still might talk to them, depending on how I feel. So I do the written test part, I pass. I do the CPR portion, which I was really nervous about, but for some reason I passed, even though, I don't know. And then the third part came along, the group test. And I really thought we were gonna fail because you're put in groups of 4 and 2 of our other girls had failed out. So they had to re-put us with 2 other people that we have not been practicing with. But thankfully those 2 girls were very motivated to pass. So together we actually failed the CPR, the third round, but they give you one more try. So the second time we passed, which I was very grateful. I was so glad to say that I was actually able to pass that class. And so I go sit in my car and I'm like, call my sister, and I'm like, so we passed, but I still am so scared and I'm still terrified of doing the job. And she was like, okay, well, you need to go talk to them, Abby. Now's the chance. And I was like, you're right. Now is the chance. So I walk in there and I'm like, hi, can I talk to you blank? It was I'm not going to say her name, but it was the girl that my trainer had told me to talk to on the third day. And they told me that she had already left to go home for the day, and that since I had passed the test, I was no longer in their care, and that I couldn't talk to somebody until I got to the contemporary. But I didn't get to the contemporary for 8 more days. So I was like, okay. So I went back, and then my parents, after talking to them, my parents were like, okay, the next day, just go in there tomorrow morning and talk to them. And I was like, okay. So I show up once again at 7:30 before the next class started. And I'm like, I walk in, she's not there. It's the same 2 lifeguards that I had talked to the day before, and they were kind of rude to me, and they were like, I don't know why you're nervous. The contemporary is one of the easiest pools to guard. And I was like, that's not the point. The point is, I don't think I'm mentally strong enough to deal with that anxiety and stress every single day. But anyways, she wasn't there. And so I go to my car and I call and I'm like, hey, is there? And they were like, she is, but she's working a class. And I was like, that's interesting, since I was just in the class and she didn't teach anything. She was just basically there to watch us check in or clock in and clock out. But I didn't say anything. I'm just gonna go to the parks and have fun. So I did. And another day went by and I didn't do anything. And then another day went by and I was just one minute I thought I could do the job, and then another minute I would have another breakdown. And so basically I was just like, I can't take it anymore. And so it was Friday night. I was at Animal Kingdom. It was 4:30 and I was like, or it was 4 o'clock, and I was like, I cannot live my life for 7 months having a panic attack almost every single day and crying myself to sleep. I can't do it. And so I walked in and I was like, can I talk to? And they were like, she's not here. And I was like, I need to talk to somebody. And they were like, okay, go talk to her. And I was like, thank you so much. So I walk up into her office and I'm like, hi. And she's so sweet. She was so friendly and nice. And she was like, hi, how can I help you? And I was like, I'm just gonna sit down for a second because I feel like this is gonna take a few minutes. And she was like, okay. And so I basically explained to her once again all the stress and the pain I've been going through. And I was like, I just don't know if I can do this, not only for my safety, but I'm afraid that if I have one of these stressful, like, panic attacks on stand, that somebody really could be in distress while I'm stressing of my own. And she was like, I can see what you're saying. And so basically I asked her to recast me, and she said that she could send an email to CP recruitment and they could take it from there. And I was like, okay, thank you. And so she told me that basically to expect a call the next day. The next day was Saturday because it was already 5 o'clock on Friday, which means most people had already went home. And I was like, okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for helping me. So I went back to my apartment and I told my roommate everything that had happened. And I'm not kidding you, not even an hour after getting home, I got a call from casting. And I was like, I'm not ready. And so I answer it. And he was really sweet. And he was like, hi, is this Abigail? And I was like, yes. He told me that he got an email from the contemporary telling him that I needed to be recast. And so he asked me what was wrong, and I told him everything that I've already mentioned, and he said, lifeguarding's not for everybody. And he was like, have you had any lifeguarding history before? And I was like, no, none at all. And he's like, yeah, it's a very hard and stressful role that's not meant for everybody. He's like, but I do have some alternative options for you to look through. And I was like, okay. I told him that if there was a role that I didn't think I would be able to do to my best ability, that I would continue on training as a lifeguard and work through my problems. And he told me that that was 100% okay, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him that since I was on the phone with him, I might as well hear the options. And he was like, okay, are there any specific roles that you are looking for? And I told him that I was really interested in Bippity Boppity Boutique when I was applying, and he said that they didn't have any positions open for that role because it's a very small role to begin with, so they don't really have a lot of leftover positions. And I was like, okay, that's understood. And he's like, is there anything else? And I was like, well, what do you have open in Magic Kingdom? And so he listed off a bunch of stuff that I wasn't really too interested in. And so I was like, what do you have open in the other parks? And he was like, it was the exact same stuff, basically. And I was like, okay. And so I like dug down deep, and I was like, okay, find that courage to speak up for what you want. And I was like, do you have any character attendant positions? And he said, I do have one character position open up at Epcot. And I was like, okay. And I was like, how about convention guide or children's activities? And he's like, no, none of those. He actually laughed at convention guide. And I was like, yeah, I figured not. And he's like, yeah, no. And so then we continued on. He was like, I have 3-seater positions open, and he listed where they were. And I was like, okay, those sound pretty good. And I was like, how about attractions? What attractions do you have open? He said, I have some parking positions open, bus greeters. And I was like, okay, do you have anything else? He said, hold on, let me check on something. And he like pulled it up, and he was like, well, based on your phone interview scoring, I can offer you the role of Kilimanjaro Safari. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you have any other attractions? I know Jungle Cruise is very similar to Kilimanjaro Safari, so I was wondering if you have a position open there. And he said, no, sorry, I don't. And then he was like, actually, I do have a position open for Adventureland attractions. He's like, but that does not guarantee that it would be Jungle Cruise. He said it could be anything from Enchanted Tiki Room to Magic Carpet to even the Haunted Mansion, because Liberty Square and Adventureland are combined for attractions since there's so few in Liberty Square. And I was like, okay. And so then after that, I was like, well, basically after looking at all my options, I was like, I think I would like to accept the position of character attendant at Epcot. And he said, character attendant at Epcot? And I was like, yes. And he was like, well, let me check what I have. He's like, yep, it's still available if you would like it. And I was like, I 100% would like it. And so he said, okay, you are an official character attendant, and I will finish the paperwork tonight, and you should get your training within 48 to 60 hours. And I was like, thank you so much. And so then the call ended. 6 days later, here I am, an official character attendant. Woo! I am so happy with my new position. I 100% came into the DCP planning on being a lifeguard. As you can tell, I bought a yacht club license plate. I have the Mickey in a lifesaver float. I was 100% committed to being a lifeguard. I had practiced at the YMCA. I had taken a minor CPR class before coming. I had tried my best, and as much as effort as I put in, nothing could have prepared me for the stress that came with that job. As much as I prepared physically, I could not prepare mentally for that role. It's just not meant for everybody. And I have such a caring, like, heart that on top of that, just imagining somebody getting hurt or dying on my watch just makes me cry. It literally makes me cry because I just don't want that to happen to anybody. It was just so stressful, and I could not be happier. After my training this week as being a character attendant, I am so excited for what the DCP holds before me. I've just had such a magical past 3 days. I'm so sorry. I've just seen so many amazing things already, and I've seen so many guests get teary-eyed watching and meeting characters, and it is so magical. It is literally everything I wanted. And I am so thankful that I got the opportunity to be recast as a character attendant. And I'm so excited for the next 6 months and to watch little girls and little boys' dreams come true every single day. I don't think I could ever get tired of it. Just finishing off, I just want to say that I hope that this video helps you all so much, because I know that there is so very few videos out there talking about being recast during your DCP or just working for Disney in general. I just hope that this video helps all of you all so much, and I hope that you all have the most magical day ever, and I cannot wait for you all to follow me along this entire new journey of being a character attendant for the Walt Disney World Company. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.